So, you finally made it. Yeah, I know why you're here. You've been seeing the talk around Ninjago being in Fortnite, or you saw Ninjago in Fortnite, and now you got a little goblin in your brain telling you that it's time for another hyperfixation. Whether you're someone who watched Ninjago when you were a little kid, or whether you were a super fan into your teens and just kind of fell out of it, you have a problem, and it's that you want to watch Ninjago. Kind of catch up with your childhood and see what Ninjago's been up to. But Ninjago is big. So clearly, you have no idea where to start, and you don't know what to expect. What am I gonna see after I rewatch seasons 1 and 2? What if you're someone who got into the show in the middle of its run, and you don't know if the seasons after are particularly good? I'm gonna try to answer all those questions in this video. I'm basically gonna try to lay everything out for you so you should know what to expect, what to look forward to, and what to not look forward to. Where should you start? What's a good starting point to give yourself the best shot at watching Ninjago? Well, I think there are multiple answers to that question. Let's say that you're someone who watched the show as a kid and you really liked it and you want to watch what you've seen. Great, then start from the beginning and work your way up. Even if you started with a random season like season 4, I think it's good that you get the background and backstory of the season you watched. So start at season 1 and work your way up to what you watched. However, if you are someone who just flat out doesn't remember Ninjago or hasn't seen it, I still think season 1 and 2 are a decent starting point, but just know it's, in my opinion, not as good as the show could be. Not to say it's bad, far from it, but season 1 and 2 of Ninjago are basically in their own little era. You might watch those seasons and say, wait, this is what everyone's talking about? Well, it may be what they are talking about, but the rest of us, when we're talking about how great Ninjago is, we're talking about beyond when the show got rebooted. And no, that wasn't a pun. Because originally, the show was supposed to be just 2 seasons, ending with the final battle between good and evil, which then quickly wasn't. But is there a way to kind of get to the good stuff? You know, you want to sell yourself on the good stuff and then kind of work your way back. Well, actually, yeah. There are a couple of options. Ninjago during its history has had a lot of reboots where it's kind of meant for a new viewer to watch the show at that certain point. There are pretty much 4 different times in the show that you can start from that season, but really there's only 3. We'll get to one of those later. The first one was when the show was rebooted in season 3. Ninjago hadn't been on the air for 2 years, so there were gonna be new people watching. But to be honest, the reboot was more focused on bringing the older fans back. Still not a bad place to start, but I personally wouldn't recommend it. At that point, I would just tell you to watch the first 2 seasons anyway. The second reboot was in seasons 8, 9, and 10, the Oni trilogy, when the movie came out and LEGO wanted to market to new fans coming from the movie, which unfortunately was not as warranted as LEGO had hoped, but this is still a pretty decent place to start. But still, I feel as if moments in the Oni trilogy don't really hit as hard if you're not accustomed to these characters. Once again, it's fine, and if you rewatch the series after you watch the Oni trilogy and start from season 1, all the emotional moments can hurt even further. I would only recommend the Oni trilogy if you were a fan of the show for the first 7 seasons, but fell out of it and kinda need something to bring you back in. But for my money, if you're a completely new fan or if you just kind of want to see what happened to the ninja since your childhood, then Dragon's Rising is the best option. Dragon's Rising is the best place for newcomers to get into Ninjago, and it feels as though it was made specifically for that. Ninjago Dragon's Rising is a kind of a sequel series to Ninjago and is a big reboot for it. It's taken out of Ninjago after this giant event called the Merge happened, and it combines all of the 16 realms into one, making the world of Ninjago way bigger and raising the stakes. But not only that, follows the new characters, Eren and Sora, training to become new ninjas with Lloyd in the shoes of being their master after Sensei Wu is basically dead. But Eren and Sora are great characters, if you understand that they're not supposed to be Kai, Jay, Cole, and Zane, and they're not supposed to be, and that's what is so great about them. I enjoy that they're different. Ninjago has gone on for so unbelievably long that the old ninja have basically kind of peaked. So introducing new characters to fall in love with is what a series like Ninjago needs. But it's not just falling in love with new characters, it's also giving old characters new things to do with the merge. Seeing Lloyd becoming a master is great to see, seeing him grow up and become more like his uncle.
You must complete the course before I finish my tea.
I burnt the tea.
So, for my definitive answer, if you were a fan of the show and just want to revisit the show out of nostalgia, rewatch the full show from season 1. If you watched the prior 7 seasons and kind of want something to rope you back in, watch the Oni trilogy. And if you are a complete brand new fan, check out Dragon's Rising. It's the perfect introduction to anyone who wants to watch Ninjago and see what it has going for it. But let's say you want to watch the show from front to back regardless, but you kind of want to set your expectations. You know, what are the good seasons? What are the bad seasons? If I get to Hands of Time and I rage quit, will I be doing that one cave meme with the diamonds? Spoiler? Yes. Either way, I'll kind of go through every season and just give you a quick summary of what I feel is the consensus of each season. The pilot is great, especially for a pilot, in that it doesn't really feel like one. It more so feels like a prequel to season 1 and 2, and is a great introduction to these characters, though I do wish it was a little longer. Seasons 1 and 2 I'll just kind of lump in because they are pretty consistent. They're pretty good for what they were supposed to be at the time. It kind of feels as if it's just trying to jam a whole bunch of stuff together though, as these seasons feel way more packed compared to the new seasons. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's just a lot. I will also say that I consider the first half of season 2 to be like the worst part of the show. They aren't unwatchable, they're just filler, and they squander something that was hyped since both the pilot and season 1. But thankfully, it does pick back up in the second half, and I think it's the best part of the first 2 seasons. Season 3 was the reboot, where after fan demand, they brought the series back, even if they had to kind of retcon the whole final battle. But hey, Ninjago's back, and it's awesome, who cares? Season 3, I think, is generally positively received, though originally it was supposed to be just 2 episodes, then 4, then turned into 8. And while you would think that would mean the season got stretched out and is boring, I would actually say the opposite. Elements are going to be brought up and dealt with before I feel like they should have been, making you question why they were there in the first place. But don't worry, the love triangle gets a lot of focus. Oh boy, yeah, if you know anything about Ninjago, it's probably this stupid love triangle they tried to insert between Jay, Cole, and Nia, which just absolutely sucks for multiple reasons. One big reason being that it's so obvious that Cole doesn't like Nia at all, and is just on this train because Jay forced him onto it. Not even fans of the original seasons even like this bit, yet will treat something small and insignificant in the newer seasons as if it's the absolute end of the world. But, I mean, I know some people enjoy this stuff. It's kind of like a car crash that you can't look away from. It's absolutely trash, but some people love that, so if that's your thing, I guess. But if it's not your thing, all I can recommend is to just please deal with it. If you're into Ninjago, you're in it for an action show with ninjas and not a rom-com. So just buckle up. Especially because even though this love triangle goes on for 4 seasons, the 4th season, Tournament of Elements, is considered by many to still be the best season of the show. And for good reason, it's definitely up there. It's definitely a top 5 Ninjago season to this very day, and it was just awesome getting to see more elemental masters and seeing the ninja on an even playing field with their powers. Plus the villain is great, being the master of a snake cult, and serves as the one season with technically a permadeath of a beloved character. Kinda. Also, Kai gets a girlfriend if you are here for a rom-com for some reason.
What was that you said?
I said, oh, what a beautiful night.
Season 5, Possession, was always one of my personal favorites, and is around ghosts. How fun! If you're a big fan of Kung Fu Panda, then you're gonna like this season because Moro is basically just Tai Lung. That's not even an exaggeration, he's basically the same character. But I do really like Moro regardless, and Possession even ends on a great 2-part season finale. Things are going pretty good until... Skybound. Skybound is divisive. Skybound is certainly watchable, but it's weird. Not only is it thankfully the end, but the absolute worst era of the love triangle, with Jay acting like an absolute idiot and Nia only partially acting justified in response. But the villain is not only just not that great, but he's also a weirdo towards Nia. Still, Skybound has some good moments, just very spread out, but mostly it's just a boring season in general. However, I know some people really love Jay. Odds are if Kai isn't your favorite ninja, it's probably Jay. And this is a decent season for him despite the nonsense. And hey, debatably better than the season after.
During the Serpentine Wars, but Ninjago was at peace. Who would they be fighting?
Season 7 Hands of Time is possibly the worst season of the show. Not even to say the story of the season is bad, I actually kind of like it. And the villains, the Chronix and Crux, are actually pretty cool villains, being time twins, the master of time, with both their powers separated between each other, then taken by Garmadon and Wu into these Vengestone blades. Plus, we got to learn and meet Kai and Nia's parents, and all of that was great. However, the rest of the season, I feel, is not only boring, but the dialogue is clunky and just downright awful.
They didn't win. We lost.
And the animation is horrible, with some of the worst animation errors in the show's history. And that is saying something. Thankfully, this season is an outlier, as Willfilm, the animators at the time, farmed out production of this season to another vendor, who were promptly shut down after how terrible the season turned out. Well, that could have gone a little better. And the original writers didn't write this season, as they were busy with another show they were involved with, Troll Hunters. But listen, no matter how bad or how bored you are with Hands of Time, hang in there, because right afterwards you get the Oni trilogy, which is considered to be the peak of Ninjago / when a lot of people left. As I said before, this season was meant to coincide with the movie, and thus they actually changed the designs of the characters as a way to coexist with the movie and breathe new life into these dated character designs. People just really hate these designs because they were introduced with the movie, even though I don't feel like it had much to do with it. I think they genuinely wanted to make the characters look older and add more personality to their design, and I think they look great for that. However you feel about the designs, if you stick with them, you'll have a peak set of 3 seasons. Sons of Garmadon, Hunted, and to a lesser extent, but I still think the pretty good 4-episode arc of March of the Oni, are a spectacular watch. If any of you are Sonic fans, Hunted came out shortly after Sonic Forces, telling a similar kind of story with very similar beats, but Ninjago did so much better than that game ever did, which is always an hilarious memory for me. And Garmadon, even though arguably bringing him back was kind of pointless, can be looked past because of just how cool he is. Way better than the Saturday morning-esque villain he was kind of like in the first half of Season 2 especially. But unfortunately, things are really bad from here until Dragon's Rising, where for some reason, Ninjago turned its episodes from 22 minutes into 11 minutes. Not only that, but the episodes, especially in the first 2, felt more comedic. This wasn't all bad in the first season of this era. One of the most underrated episodes, in my opinion, Snake Catastrophe, was a really great episode and worked great in the 11-minute format and was a comedic episode. Plus, a fan favorite in Season 12, Prime Empire Ninjago Confidential, where Zane is a detective and puts on this detective voice for the entire episode, is really funny.
Due to the city's video game prohibition,
You are beginning to get on my nerves, Circuits.
her eyes showed annoyance, but her heart revealed that she respected my unorthodox techniques.
My heart did not reveal that. Every part of me is annoyed.
But it would have gotten old as a full 22-minute episode. Season 11 Secrets of Forbidden Spinjitzu I think is okay in that regard, despite the format change. The Ice chapter, on the other hand, was very mid and honestly worse in my opinion, though it's very debatable depending on who you ask. Prime Empire is also a very controversial season, but I kinda liked it, where the ninja get trapped in a video game, and as a local video game fan, while it's very, how do you do, fellow kids, ultimately, it's pretty good, and it's a much better season than Skybound was, so it has that going for it for sure. Though, this line still makes me angry.
I find old games to be unchallenging.
Old games are bullshit! Things change a little bit, however, as Master of the Mountain was pretty decent, though has a few pacing problems, like the Ice Chapter Secrets of Forbidden Spinjitzu. The final episode was sick though, being fully based around Cole, which was massively requested, because it took him 13 seasons to finally get one. So if Cole was a fan favorite for you and you missed out, this is something to definitely look forward to, and his relationship with his mom was really sweet. The one season I can recommend from this era though, Seabound, is absolutely incredible. This one is great and explores Nia's character and has a great ending, a devastating ending even. Also, Kalmar is probably my favorite villain, not because he has this really good motivation. Nah, he's literally just racist towards anyone who isn't a fish, and I think it's hilarious. Unfortunately, good times end here because then we have Crystallized, the absolute worst season of Ninjago probably. Not only does it kind of ruin Seabound's ending, unnecessarily bringing back villains for absolutely no reason and even spitting in the face of their legacy, character arcs that don't work, and brought us one punching bag of a line that is quoted and memed on in the Ninjago community ever since it happened. There's some decent stuff in Crystallized, mainly in the first half, but it's very few and far between and was honestly what made a lot of people drop the franchise altogether. To be honest, when watching this era, for maximum enjoyment, I think you should try to view it more as a spin-off. It technically isn't, but it is considered a new show for some reason. So the writers and producers consider it a new show, so you should too. There is a shift, so just be prepared for it, and maybe you can go with a different set of expectations than most people. You might even appreciate the more comedic elements after 10 seasons of serialization. And then just buckle up for Crystallized, that's all I can say. If you're a big fan of hate watching, then Crystallized is a perfect season for that. Though thankfully, even though Crystallized was horrible, what brought a lot of people back was Ninjago Dragons Rising, which has been great so far. Season 3 was a little mid, but I think it picks up a bit in the second half. But that is just one season, while seasons 1 and 2 are the best seasons of Ninjago, period. Well, for me at least. Season 1 was an excellent introduction to the new direction for the series and introduced Eren and Sora, who once again are incredible characters, and I'd say even better than some of the original Ninja. And there are even a couple of more new characters that are also great, like Wildfire and Eren's old friend Frak, which gives us a Serpentine Ninja, which is a great way of bringing the series full circle. I absolutely love that. I honestly think a lot of people can relate to these characters a lot. Frak is a recently introduced character, so there's not really much to discuss with him, but Eren, voiced by Devin Mack, by the way, who does an absolutely outstanding performance, like I couldn't imagine anyone else doing it. He's a kid from the streets and a great person of color, adding diversity to the cast. He wants to become a ninja and taught himself Spinjitzu, and can even transfer it to an object, adding more momentum to it when thrown, which is just so cool. He's also on the hunt for his parents, and the more the series goes on, the more impatient he gets with Lloyd on trying to find them. And let's just say, he'll do anything to get them back. Sora is a mechanic with the power of technology, on the run from the city Imperium, a city ruled by the mistress Empress Beatrix. Sora learns of her ways of running the city, trapping dragons and draining them of their energy while lying to people about it. Sora doesn't want this and refuses to use her mechanical talents to serve the Empress, and her parents don't approve of her wishes, shutting her out and even taking her workbench away from her. Coincidentally, she uses the merge as a means of escaping the city and her parents' lifestyle. It's such a captivating story, something that I feel a lot of people can relate to, and makes Sora a top 5 character for me. But Wildfire, on the other hand, doesn't have as much of a character, but she is amazing. She was raised by a dragon all her life and has this kind of animal cave woman kind of vibe to her. She can speak full sentences and all, but she's very aggressive and even more hot-headed than Kai, which, yeah, she does have fire powers as well, being the elemental master of heat. What's the difference between fire and heat? I don't know.
Is she doing fire? She can't do fire. Fire's my thing!
Wildfire is another one of my favorite Ninjago characters, not because she has a deep character, but it's because she is simple, and it's a lot like classic Kai, but in her own animalistic way, which makes her screen time always a treat. Give her a chance, I promise, you'll love her. You'll at the very least find her dynamic with Kai interesting, I can guarantee that. The only problem I would ask you to expect though is Dragons Rising has a bit of an outside problem. Because Ninjago isn't on TV anymore, Ninjago was originally in full partnership with Netflix for distribution, which then ballooned out to other streaming services. However, and I'm not sure if it's just Netflix or other streaming services, but I mainly heard this from Netflix's end, but Netflix has a history of forcing productions to make their shows a lot more second screen friendly, where they just constantly keep refeeding information or saying what they're doing as if you don't have eyes or I guess a brain, which can range from fine to annoying to just downright corny.
So much for turning our backs on our elemental powers!
I get it, Sora! As I said, this doesn't necessarily have anything to do with Ninjago. Sometimes it could be on them, but I'm willing to bet that the times where it's extreme and too much, that's Netflix pressuring the writing team to just shove in exposition to make sure the audience can follow along. I kinda get where they're coming from, but I also think this is just completely pointless, because if you're making something for me to make sure I can watch it without giving it too much attention, then what does it mean when I'm giving it all of my attention? That the storytelling has to suffer because it has to pause the action and literally spoon feed the information to you. That's another really unfortunate thing. Because the series was initially on Netflix, as of right now, Dragons Rising seasons are split up into 2 parts and released at the beginning and the end of the year. Ninjago feels like a show where you need to be waiting for a new episode every week, not just piling all of the episodes into one day to avoid spoilers, especially when you're deep into the Ninjago fandom. Doing it this way makes the show feel more akin to a 4-hour movie rather than a TV series, and that just really sucks. But man, it is worth it for Dragons Rising, because as I said, this is the best thing that has happened to Ninjago in quite a while. But I think I covered just about everything you need to watch Ninjago, and if I happen to not talk about something, please make sure to comment on this video, and I'll try my best to reply to every question I see, because, well, I love Ninjago, and I want to see as many people get into the series as possible. There's always more room in the cult. I mean, the Danish Mafia has got to be covered somehow. I mean, what? So go watch Ninjago. You know everything you need to know about it now, and you already know too much, so what's the harm in checking it out? Whether you're an older fan or a new fan, I've done my part, so now it's your turn. So what do you think of this watch guide? Were all your questions answered? Do you have any more questions? And for those of you who do watch the show, do you think this was a good watch guide? Let me know all that down in the comments below. And make sure to send this video to that one friend you've been begging to give the series a shot, but makes excuses like, oh, I don't know what to expect. Oh, I don't know anything about the show. I don't want to get involved with mafia activity. Thank y'all for watching this video. If you liked it, make sure to hit that like button, and thank you all so much for watching. And I'll see you in the next one.